everyone, this is Mary, you're in Mary Reads. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the tips that will help you read classics. I decided that this video is going to be helpful, especially because we've talked about classics a lot in the last couple of months. I mentioned quite a bunch of classic books. So I decided that it would be nice to talk about the tips that will make classics a little bit less intimidating for those who are a little worried about starting to read classics. So first of all, ask yourself a question. What do you think about when you hear the word classics? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Is it resentment? Is it excitement? If it's something along the lines of stress, boredom, anxiety, then this video is for you. And before we begin, please do not forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel not to miss any future videos. So let me tell you a story. Let's begin with a story. As I said multiple times, I'm from Russia, and Russia is known for its classical literature. We have Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Nabokov, Bulgakov, and many, many more writers. These are just the first ones that came into my head because I was thinking about them recently. So, of course, as a student in school, you have to read a lot of classics. Russian schools are only 11 years, so not like American schools that are 12 years long. We have 11-year-long schools. So especially in older grades, in high school, like 10th and 11th grade, you have to read a lot of Russian classics, and it gets more serious with the more you grow, the more serious it gets. So in 10th grade, we were reading Crime and Punishment, we were reading War and Peace, we were reading Master and Margarita. Of course, those are big, massive novels, and you only get around a month for each one of them. So obviously, a lot of us were stressed. Even if you like reading, even if you love going to bookstores and getting new books, having a month to read this huge historical novel like War and Peace, it's not technically a historical novel, but whatever, let's call it that for now. It's intimidating. And then you keep hearing from your teachers, if you don't get very good teachers, that you have to read this novel, you have to know Russian culture, you have to know Russian classics, and if you don't, that means that you're not intelligent enough, you will end up somewhere drunk under the bridge, and nothing good will ever happen to you. Obviously, that does not sound very appealing, so you feel the need to read it, you feel the stress, you feel the anxiety, you have to read it, you also have to be able to discuss it, you also have to be able to write essays based on the novel, and if you don't know some details, you might not do well in your essays. So obviously there is a lot of stress. And a lot of us felt like classics are not fun. I do not want to read classics. I don't want to come close to it. Please just leave me alone. Give me my fantasy book and just off, like get away from me. But the older we get, especially after you finish school, you start reading something you want to read. You have this privilege of choosing a book for yourself. And a lot of us started thinking then, why do I not read classics? I want to know more about love. I want to know more about friendship, about faith, about life, about death. And what's the better way to learn about it than reading a classic novel? So we start thinking about reading classics. But then, and by we, I mean a lot of my classmates who I discussed it with, me as well, because even though I love reading and I enjoyed reading classics, still it felt very intimidating. So obviously we start thinking, well, maybe we should read classics, maybe we should give it a chance. But then all of those expectations from the past, all of those horrible, horrible things that people told us, the society told us, they start coming up, and you feel like maybe it's not the time. You're postponing those books. You think that maybe I don't need it that much. Maybe I can watch a movie based on the book. Maybe I can just read something shorter. Why do I have to read this huge novel that Tolstoy wrote 200 years ago. So instead of going into that fear, you keep postponing it, you keep living in that fear. So what can be done to make the process easier for you? Obviously, when you know what to expect, when you're a professional in this, it's not as scary anymore. But what if you're just starting? What if you're just beginning your classic book journey? These are some of the tips that I thought of. Let me know if you can think of other tips, maybe something that you used that made it easier for you to read classics. But for now, let's move to the first tip. Let's say you're worried about the size of the book. 1,000 pages is a lot. Let's be real, it's a lot. So it feels like you're never going to be able to do this huge thing. You're never going to be able to read those 1,000 pages. You feel like you're going to be stuck in it forever. And that's a completely normal fear. Every time you're starting something big, a huge project, it feels like it's impossible. It's so heavy, you can't lift it. So here's something that can help is dividing a book into smaller sections. It can be a division for each day, like let's say you're comfortable reading 20 pages each day, so you can do a 20-page divides. It can be something that you want to go through weekly, so if you have a week, maybe it can be 100 pages. That way you will be able to see that, okay, 100 pages in a week is not that much. I can do that. I can spare an hour in the evening and read the book, and then I'll get to my 100 pages in a week. And then if it's a 1,000-page book, I'll be able to read it in 10 days. That's not that scary. I can see the end of it. So this will kind of trick your brain a little bit. It will make it easier for you. You don't even have to wait until the chapter ends. I know some chapters can be long. They can be like 30-page chapters, and you can feel like, oh, well, that's too much. Just do 20. It doesn't matter that a chapter doesn't end. If you feel like you're super interested, you want to keep reading, by all means, read 30 pages. That's amazing. But if you feel like you're tired, you don't have a lot of time, it's too intimidating, just do 20. You'll finish the chapter tomorrow. Tip number 2, before you start reading a classic book, read a little bit more about the author, about the time period the book is written about, especially if you're reading a book by a foreign author. Let's say you're an American and you're reading Tolstoy's novel. You have no idea what was happening in Russia 200-300 years ago. You have no idea what people used to do, what people used to think, what people used to believe, how people used to live. And that's normal. You don't have to know that. You did not study that in your history lessons deeply, like you did not spend a lot of time studying that. I spent 11 years studying that. So for me, that's a little bit easier. I was in the cultural context. I knew the historical events. I knew what was going on. So for me, it's easier. But for you, you don't have to know that. You can't know the history of all the countries so that you understand every book easily. You can also read a little bit about the author to know his or her key beliefs, key points. Why did they decide to write about that? Why are they writing about it this way and not the other way? And it doesn't have to be a deep, long analysis. You don't have to get ready to read a book for a month. But you think, okay, so War and Peace, Leo Tolstoy, maybe I can read a little bit about him. Find the article that you think is interesting, read that article, perfect. Now you're thinking, okay, fine. So we are talking about Napoleonic Wars here. So let's read about the year 1812 in Russia, what happened then, some key events. And then maybe you find the cultural side interesting. So what books were published at that time or around that time? What hobbies did people have? Is it something similar to what people in my country had? It can be a very kind of a short analysis. You can find a Wikipedia page about War and Peace and read not the content section, but maybe some references, maybe some interesting facts about the author, some interesting facts about the, I don't know, even fashion if you want to. So this small analysis will kind of bring you a little bit into the context. You will know what's going on, and you will not have to stop after every page to read about a certain event. If you feel like you did not read enough and then there's this interesting battle that happened and I want to read more about that, please do that. Pause reading and do that. But if you don't want to, if you feel like you've read enough, that's a perfect way to start. You just read 1 or 2 articles and you're good to go. Tip number 3, and this is very kind of personal, so for me it works. I don't know if it's gonna work for you. Maybe you will have a better system. Classics are often the books that were published 100, 200 years ago. So obviously people spoke differently. You have words that you do not use anymore. And what's more, you have words for things that we don't use anymore. It can be a piece of clothing or a piece of transportation or a certain religious event that we don't do anymore, or a certain thing that farmers did, a certain ritual that is called a certain way. It can be anything. So basically, you obviously will not know all the words there. And for me, it helps to Google those words. You can underline those words and Google those words, but only after I finish my section for the day or I finish the chapter. Because if I Google it right then and there while I'm reading, I will just keep forgetting. I will have to take my phone constantly. I will not be able to fully concentrate on the book. If I finish with my section, I have 10 words that I don't know. I still remember the text. It's fresh in my mind. All of the scenes are there. And I can just Google the word. I remember what happened, so I know what this word is referring to. I learn what this is. I understand the book better. Do not wait until you finish the book, because then you will have like 1,000 different words that you don't know. Well, 1,000 is a little too much. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but you'll have 30, 50 words that you will have to Google at the same time. And then you don't remember what they were referring to. And then you have to reread the scene. So it's just getting hard. So after you read your first section or your daily section or a chapter, do it after that, while it's still fresh in your mind, while you still remember what has happened, and you are still kind of emotionally involved into that particular scene. Tip number 4, write down your thoughts. You can underline something in a book, or one thing that I really like are those post-it notes that do not have any color, like they're, what's the word, translucent, so they're see-through. So you can stick them on the page. You can underline something on that sticker, so you will still see the printed words. They will be underlined on the sticker, so the book is gonna stay clean. Or you can even write on them, like a full note. I like that because I just don't like writing in books. I want my books to stay clean, especially if I'm rereading or if I'm giving this book for someone else to read. So those are a great thing. You can have a notebook for the book. You can have like a reading diary where you put your thoughts. You read something interesting, you decided to write about that before you forget. You can put your opinion about that. You can put your historical knowledge into that and think, oh, I think that's related to this and that. Oh, something similar happened then and there. So I can relate this experience to that experience. So write down your thoughts and do it before you read reviews about the book, before you watch videos with reviews, before you ask other people about the books, like before you start discussing this book with someone else. That way you will be able to have purely your opinion of the book, and then you can see, okay, was I close to it? Did I understand it correctly? Did I make the right conclusion here? And you will also not be filled with someone else's opinion of the book. Just write your own essay first. It can be a mental essay. Make your own conclusions first. Form your opinion fully before someone else affects it. And then number 5 that comes out of number 4, once you have your opinion, once you finish the book, discuss it with someone. If you are wrong about something, if you didn't understand something, another person will help you with that. You can have a discussion. It's so interesting to sit and talk to a person who read the same book but might have understood it completely differently, or who might have very different emotions. it's interesting to discuss. And it doesn't have to be anything aggressive like, oh, you're wrong. No, it can be a discussion. It can be a very, very interesting and deep topic to talk about. My husband finished Master and Margarita like a couple weeks ago. And then I read Master and Margarita. And it's not my first time reading the book, but there is always this one scene that I don't really understand. And we sat there and we discussed it. He understood it better than I did. He explained it to me. I was able to give him a little bit more context about Soviet Moscow because I know more about it than he does. And we were able to build a fuller picture of the book. And we were both able to understand it better. If you don't have anybody to talk to, if let's say your friends or family haven't read this book or they read it so long ago they don't remember it very well, feel free to watch a YouTube video, watch a lecture, find a book club that is discussing this book. All of that will work as long as you kind of have a communication, as long as you hear a different opinion. And my final tip is to read classics in a quiet environment. Obviously, it's better to read any book in a quiet environment, but with classics especially, because the books a lot of times are much longer, they were not on a timetable to finish the book for the publisher by a certain day. They often had, well, some of them did, but a lot of them had time to write this book. And the books are slower paced. So you will not be able to concentrate on the book if you're reading it for 15 minutes on the subway while you're on your way to work, stressed because it's Monday and you didn't have time to have your coffee. And then this person on the subway is blasting music, so you can't even concentrate fully. Of course, then you will not understand anything. You will not appreciate it. So try to find 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, when you can sit in a quiet environment with a cup of tea, put your phone away, and just read the book. It will be much, much easier to get into the book, fully understand and enjoy it and appreciate it for what it is. These were all of my tips. Please let me know if you have any tips that help you read classics. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.